Hello, friends. Welcome. Say hello, happy home. I'm happy to be here with you today. And what is it? Wednesday, February 20 something. Anyway, yeah, the neighborhood just exploded in sirens. Police cars and volunteer firemen and EMTs were jumping in their cars because we're surrounded by them here. We live in a very small community, but many of our neighbors are part of the volunteer fire department and emergency services. So they all are jumping in their cars and tearing on up to the highway. I hope everybody's okay and that nobody is hurt and that everybody's doing well. But that's not what I want to talk about today. I watched the uh, State of the Union last night, and the one thing I noticed that I wanted to talk to you about was when Trump was talking about the Somali fraud here in Minnesota. At one point, well, first of all, I want to make it very clear that yes, the Somalis were the exclusive community that was propagating and profiting from this fraud, knowingly and deliberately. But the kingpins of this fraud, a woman named Amy Bach, Tim Walz, and Jacob Frey, they're white guys and white women. So it's not just the Somalis. The Somalis were used as puppets. They were used as scapegoats. They were used as delivery systems for this stuff. Does that make them victims? Absolutely not. They knew what they were doing and they did it knowingly and willingly. But the point that he brought up that I thought was really interesting was how this is generational, this is cultural. And it is. When you study the state of Somalia and you understand how dangerous and violent and corrupt, just like Mexican cartels, they have all these clans, and these clans will kill for power. They will kill for money. It's a vicious and ruthless place to come from. And when you are generation after generation after generation of individuals that are raising your children in this criminal element, they don't know any better. This is natural to them. So they come over here and they're proud of it and they think it's okay and they're laughing at us all the way to the bank. So they're not victims. But I want to make it clear that there were white people involved, very high in the Minnesota state government. Keith Ellison and Ilhan Omar are pivotal players in this. And what I loved was when he mentioned the Somali fraud in Minnesota specifically, the cameras panned over to Ilhan Omar and whatever her stupid name is, Jayapal. And I found this interesting because the squad used to be a lot bigger than just two. AOC wasn't there, I suppose, because she was probably performing oral sex on Mamdani in his communist commune compound, wherever that might be. But since Trump's first term, the squad's dwindled, and there was only two of them there. I like that. However, they were still being childish and disrespectful. But what I noticed right off the bat was body language and facial expression and things like that. I'm fascinated with this. I had to know a little bit about this when I was doing asset protection investigation, when I was working uniform security at a large casino, and we had to interview and ID people and whatnot. And you learn a little bit about it. And immediately when the camera panned to Ilhan Omar, that look on her face was a look of pure shock and terror, because she had just been called out on the world stage. He had said that it is a cultural thing, and you can't dispute it. It's studied, verified fact. And because her and her husband are currently being investigated here in the state of Minnesota, if you were not aware, for the extensive amount of money that she earned. I mean, she had I think she was negative $3,000 net worth when she became a senator, and now she's worth tens of millions of dollars in a matter of years. And they've already discovered that many of her husband's businesses are fake. So she's in a lot of legal trouble, state and federal legal trouble. And when he called out Minnesota, he was calling out her and her community, and the shock and terror on her face that now it was laid bare for all the world to see. Because it's not just United States citizens that are watching the State of the Union, the world is watching. I also saw in her eyes the shock of a spoiled, entitled child who has never heard the word no, has never in her life had to be accountable for her actions. And she was trying, as she was doing all this rapid blinking and tearing up of the eyes and kind of jerking her head, she was trying to assimilate what he was saying to her. She was trying to translate that into her brain. Because the reality is setting in that she's been caught red-handed. And the jig is up. She's going down. And I don't care if it was politically correct or appropriate. We no longer live in a politically correct or appropriate world. Thanks to social media, thanks to the internet, there is no such thing as politically correct or appropriate anymore. You can be dignified, you can be mature, but the expression on her face made watching an hour and 40 some minutes of his speech worth every second. What these politicians, what these people have done to the state of Minnesota at large and to the Minnesota taxpayers is, well, there's really no words. It is reprehensible. It is sickening. It is shameful. It is deplorable. They don't deserve their jobs. They deserve to be in prison. But yeah, to see only 2 squad members there acting like children, and to see the shock and fear in her eyes. And she was tearing up, and she was blinking, and her head was jerking, and she was trying to get words out. She was just completely shocked, floored, aghast, not able to assimilate everything he was saying as he was saying it. You've been called out, Omar, and I'm glad he did. Take a look at it if you haven't seen that, or seen the State of the Union, or you haven't seen that pan in from the photographers. I have to give all of the photographers from the press that were there. They did a beyond exceptional job on photographing it. They got all different angles of Trump. They didn't look at Trump and cut off the heads of JD and Mike Johnson like sometimes they have. They panned in and out very smoothly. They were able to find the honorees, the American citizens that he was honoring in the crowds very quickly and easily. And I thought it was kind of interesting how when he called out the insider trading, which is a massive federal crime. That's what Martha Stewart went to prison for. And he called it the Nancy Pelosi Act, something like he was going to call it that. And they immediately pan to others that are under investigation for that, such as Elizabeth Warren. And I thought that was excuse me, cheeky on the part of the photographers. But I loved it, and I loved how Elizabeth Warren had to stand up and applaud for that law because she's being investigated, and if she didn't, it might have been looked as an admission of guilt. Yeah. So they got what they deserved. Now grow up and start acting like mature adults who are servants of the people of the United States of America. And start being reasonable. You don't have to give up your values, your morals, or whatever, but you need to stop lying. You need to stop inciting violence. And you need to stop thinking that the rules don't apply to you and your voters, because they do. I'm sorry. That reality is hard for you to hear, but it's true. So take a look at it and pay attention to the body language and the reactions on the faces of the two squad members who were there and the Democrats who failed to stand up when they really should have. Specifically when the Dems said, when he said, we stand for Americans first over illegals. And he wasn't saying that they're less than human, that they don't deserve humane treatment like a human being. He was saying that they need to put the American people who voted them into office, whose taxpayer dollars pay their salaries, they need to put them first, and they're not. And if you noticed, none of them stood up. They don't stand for you, America. They stand for their pocketbooks, and they stand for the illegals because the illegals can be manipulated and controlled. And remember, I've had videos out here before about Slave Trade 2.0. And they proved my point blaringly last night when they failed to stand up and saying that they are in support of Americans. They didn't. They didn't stand up because they don't support you. They want you to support their slave trade. Who's going to pick our vegetables? Who's going to pick our cotton? And that's exactly what Elizabeth Warren, quote unquote, said. Who's going to pick our vegetables? And Jasmine Jazzy Crockett, she wasn't there. That's interesting. She, well, maybe she can't be. I don't know, because did she take her seat out to run for, yeah, she lost her seat. And she made some disparaging remark, who's going to pick our cotton? Well, I don't know, the machinery, the millions and millions of dollars worth of machinery on the cotton farms, that's going to pick your cotton. People don't do that anymore. And if you're dumb enough to believe that stuff, then you deserve what you get voting for Democrats. I got to say, it comes a time when you need to step back and realize how absurd these humans are. But yeah, take a look at when they stood, when they didn't stand, and if you still want to support them. And take a look at their faces when Trump called out certain issues, certain things that were going on. And until next time, do good and be good.